Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Welcome back to the Corner of Truth and Courage. You're listening to Fortress of Faith. This is Tom Wallace. Yesterday, I began talking to our listeners in Texas. And I want to ask our listeners, if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area listening to us on the radio, please help us get this information to, some people in government so that they can have some guidance in this. I have a background dealing with some of these issues, putting roadblocks in the way of Islam growing in our nation. And again, let me quickly share with you a little bit of background. This is part 2 of a message to Texas. You guys are facing a situation where a number of Muslims are wanting to build a Muslim city north of Dallas. It's called the Epic City. Many of you there are no doubt aware of this and heard of it. Maybe our listeners around the nation are not aware. But I've been at this for a while now, and let me go back in some history to share with you my background. I used to be a missionary in England, and in England we saw a great number of Muslim immigrants move into the country. I remember as a lad, I went there when I was a boy. My folks were missionaries there as well, and spent 29 years of my life in the United Kingdom. And I remember as a boy, all the Muslims lived on 2 blocks. And, you knew they were there. You could smell the curry, and, the lifestyle was different and all that there. Of course, growing up, you didn't really pay attention to it. They really didn't show their religion as much as they showed their nationalities. Many of them were from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and so it was certainly a cultural area. Then I went back as an adult as a missionary. What was 2 blocks now took over 3 miles. Pretty much all the businesses, all the homes were now occupied by Muslims from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. The housing estate I lived in, about 1,000 homes. Half of them were either Muslim or Sikh, and the other half were British. It was just part of our society. And I had heard from the Muslims, and I shared this in the last broadcast, but let me say it again. You're going to live under Sharia. They threatened and let us know Sharia's coming. And I was like, take a pill. It ain't going to happen. Just not, in no way could Sharia be merged into a country like England, with our laws here. In America and England, very similar. I was wrong, though. And the English had capitulated, had given in to the demands of the Muslims back September 14, 2008. And the headquarters for all those Sharia courts was in my town, 5 miles from my church. That was the wake-up call. That's the day that I woke up, that I realized there's an agenda here, and it's not terrorism. Let me say it again. The terrorists did not bring Sharia law to England. It was the moderates. They can't help themselves. If they're going to practice Islam, Sharia law will follow. Now, I'm going to teach you in a moment. I'll teach you probably in tomorrow's broadcast how we deal with that, because it is important that we make a distinction between the religion of Islam and the Sharia of Islam. They're really 2 different animals, and we can divide it. In fact, Islam divides it itself in their own books, and it's an important strategy, and I'll get to that probably in tomorrow's broadcast in our 3rd segment. But today, I want to address one of the things that Texas needs to do that they've not done. I told you 2 things that you don't do in yesterday's broadcast. Number 1, as a city council, you cannot restrict Muslims from having their places of worship. It's protected by the First Amendment. And 2 cities in Michigan learned it the hard way. They tried to stop it, tried to prevent permissions and for them to have their mosque, and they were sued for the violation of their First Amendment rights. And The cities paid big, and these Muslims got millions of dollars to build beautiful mosques. And I don't think that the people of Texas want that to happen. So you can't fight them on that level. So don't. Secondly, you cannot pass a law to ban Sharia law in your state. Oklahoma tried that about 11 years ago, and they passed it. It flew. I mean, it was voted 70% of the people in the state said, yeah, we do not want Sharia law in our state. And it was mentioned, Sharia law. And they passed it, and it was signed in, but they were sued by the federal government. The Muslims went to the federal government, and they were sued, and the Muslims won. You cannot violate their First Amendment rights. You're going to lose every time. And here's the problem. The governor, Abbott, is already making that same mistake. He's already saying the words, Sharia law is not going to be allowed in this state. And so you cannot legislate that way, but there is a way you can do it. It's called, there's a bill. It's been passed in 8 states, and another 5 states have passed it marginally, not in its complete form, like 8 states have. And we can thank Tennessee. Tennessee was the first state to do it back in 2010. And the bill is called the Foreign Laws Bill. Now, here you need to understand. In America, we give comedy or accommodation to foreign laws in our courts if asked and requested, and the courts agree to do it. And so you can go to a court. Let's say you are a businessman and you have a contract with someone from Germany, and you both, somewhere along the way, someone feels that the agreement has been broken, contract has been broken, and you need to go to court. Well, you don't want to go to Germany to sue this German, so you come to an American court saying, "Hey, I want to sue this German for breaking contracts with us here." But he wants to be protected under German law because he's a German citizen, not an American citizen. So you can ask your courts, would you give comedy to German law in this case as you hear this case? It's not something done often, but it's done in our country, and it's called giving comedy or accommodation to foreign laws. Now, this No Foreign Laws bill will still allow businesses to have dealings like that. But here's the issue. There's something in that bill that is powerful. And if it's passed in your state, which is not passed in Texas, the only states that have passed it is Alabama, Arizona, Kansas, Louisiana, South Dakota, Tennessee, and where I live, North Carolina. In fact, I happen to know the congressman, Chris Whitmer, who is the one who introduced the bill. He was just a freshman in the state Congress here in North Carolina. He got a hold of this information and ran with it. And even though he was a freshman congressman, he was the author of this bill, and it got passed with flying colors in our General Assembly here in North Carolina. So it's passed in only 8 states and 5 others marginally. And here's what the bill simply says. Let me read it to you. The bill is this: no foreign law shall be applied in any court of this state if the application of that foreign law would violate any right guaranteed under the United States Constitution or the Constitution of your state. And that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of that bill. And if you get that passed in your state legislation, into your amendments there, what it does is it does what we already did federally. The federal law, our Constitution, says that nothing can trump our Constitution. Okay, no other law is going to be allowed to trump what our Constitution says. And so basically, as on a state level, you have to come in and say, hey, our state laws are supreme as well as the United States Constitution. And any foreign law will never trump it, never come in to violate the guarantees that are guaranteed, the rights that are guaranteed in these laws. And so if you do that, you protect yourself from the entrance of Sharia. Now, in New Jersey, I'd have to go back in my notes. It's been a long time. I'm just going to tell you from my memory. A New Jersey judge gave comity to a Muslim for Sharia law in his court. His wife, who was a Muslim, she was being beaten by her. These were immigrants from Sudan, I think. And she was being beaten by her husband. She wanted here in America, she had freedoms and protections, and so she wanted to use them. And she wanted a protection order against her husband to keep, because she wanted a divorce and all that, and she didn't want to be beaten up by him anymore. And so the Muslim husband went down to his mosque, and in the mosque they had a ruling amongst the imams there that he has every right to beat or do whatever he wants to his wife. She's his property according to Islam, according to the Sharia. And so he had a ruling that he was only fulfilling his religious obligations and duties. And he went to the court and said, listen, our courts, our Islamic courts, our religious rights tell me I have committed no crime and that you cannot restrict me from my wife. She's my property. And he gave comity to that and ruled against her and put her in danger. Now, it took a year for that to be overturned for this lady, but this is a perfect example of a disaster waiting in your state if you do not pass a law like this. It's called the No Foreign Laws Act. Now, if you want more information about that, contact our offices. You just go to fortressoffaith.com. You'll find our contact details. Our phone number is 800-616-0082. I'll be glad to come and speak at your church or event or meetings there. I speak at a number of events across the nation. And if you want more information on that, please contact. We'd be glad to help you. I've said this for years. You need to separate Islam from the Muslim. The Muslim needs to be saved. He needs Christ. He was unfortunate to be born in a false religion, a false teaching. And the gospel is powerful. It will change their life if we get them into the Bible. But Islam is dangerous. It's no more dangerous than Hitler and Nazism. It's evil, it's destructive, and we do not want it in our country. We must fight it. Now, tomorrow when we come back, I'm going to get a little deeper into another section. And this is more of a philosophical approach to of how we can fight these issues with Islam on a political level in our country. There are some things that need to be done politically. There are some things that need to be done militarily, sadly. And there are some things that need to be done spiritually. And so we address all of that here at Fortress of Faith. We've got over 3,000 articles on these subjects at our website, fortressoffaith.com. You can find us on YouTube, on our channel there, and on Spotify. Well, that's going to be it for today. Join us again tomorrow at the Corner of Truth and Courage. God bless you.